I just never. I was mayor 8 years, and Bernie Kerik was one of my 3 police commissioners. Howard Safer, Bill Bratton. I would tell you, we took over a city that had had 2 riots in 3 years. This kind of thing. I never had this happen in 8 years ever. This is. But I have to tell you one thing you probably don't know. You see those police officers in white shirts? Those are not police officers. Those are higher-ranking officers. Those are lieutenants, captains, and above. Now, that's the difference between what happened in Minneapolis the other night to Mr. Floyd and what happens in my city. Superior officers should have been on the scene of when Mr. Floyd was killed. It probably wouldn't have happened. They would have stopped the officer who was out of control. That's why the officers, when you see an officer in white, that is not a police officer. That's not even a sergeant. That's a lieutenant or a captain and possibly even an inspector. Those are very high-ranking officers, very equivalent to a captain in the Army or a colonel in the Army, like the one there in a mask. He's there to watch the other police officers. He's there to make sure that they don't use any force except the force that's necessary to restrain the substantial violence against them in their city. And I think that's one of the things that other police departments could learn. When that situation happened with Mr. Floyd, and I have to tell you, the shame of this is nobody disagrees. Nobody, white, black, or in between, disagrees that what happened to Mr. Floyd is an outrage. I am about as pro-police as you can get. I grew up in a family of 5 police officers. I worked with the police for 30 years of my life as a prosecutor, a high-ranking Justice Department official. I've defended them in very difficult situations. I also have prosecuted and put in jail 70 police officers. So I know the difference. And I don't prejudge cases, but I can't possibly not react to what that officer did. It was almost indescribable. He was warned numerous times that he might be killing the man. It just shocked me to see that the other 3 police officers didn't stop it. But I noticed there wasn't a superior officer there. That went on for 20 minutes.
That's interesting.
In New York City, a lieutenant or a captain would have shown up. And he'd been pulled off that man in a second. And if I were there, I would have pulled him off. I'd have pulled him off and maybe he would have shot me. But I don't know why no one pushed that man off the man he was killing.
It's such a great question.
The shame of it, Harris, is this is something that could have united us. We very often do have disputes over police brutality. There are times in which we've had phony and completely exaggerated claims of police brutality by racial incendiaries and racial thugs and criminals who live off these to make money. This is a legitimate, bad situation that has to be remedied. And it's the fault of the police that this happened. And it's not just the one officer. That's a poorly trained police department. That's a poorly managed police department. That man was never trained. The other man, Tao, standing there, obviously never had any training. The other 2 never had any training. And the police department is not well organized since there was no superior officer there. If you look at that picture right now, there may be more superior officers than police officers. Take a look at that, Minnesota. You got to do that. Cities run, and I'm sorry to get political, cities run by progressives don't know how to police. I'm sorry. 30 cities went up last night. I went and looked at every one of them. Every one of them has a progressive Democratic mayor. This would not have happened when I was mayor of New York City. I think you can ask anybody. It should not happen because this is not a protest for Mr. Floyd. This is a desecration of Mr. Floyd's memory.